Everything must be documented. B-U-S-H. The U.S. should have acted on Auschwitz. An emotional Holocaust tour. He asked why allies failed to bomb the rail lines. Would, could, should. Jerusalem. A teary-eyed president. B-U-S-H. Yes, that's a bad four-letter word. And it's connected to a lot of other bad four-letter words. Stopped in front of an aerial photo of Auschwitz on Friday as Israel's Holocaust Memorial and said the U.S. should have sent bombers to prevent the extermination of Jews there. How would he know that? Was he there? What side was he on? What side is he on? There's something more to this story. Anyway, the President said the U.S. should have bombed it. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice said the President referred to the train tracks leading to Auschwitz, not the camp itself, where between 1.1 million and 1.5 million people were killed by Nazi Germany in World War II. The issue of bombing the Nazi death camps or the rail lines leading to them has been debated for years, and the lack of action was interpreted by some as a sign of Allied indifference. The Allies had detailed reports about Auschwitz toward the end of World War II from escaped prisoners, but they chose not to bomb the camp, the rail lines, or any other of the Nazi death camps, preferring instead to focus all resources on the broader military effort to win the war. Some experts note only lately, or only late in the war, did the United States have the capability to bomb the infamous camp in occupied Poland, and also faced a moral dilemma, since such an operation could have killed thousands and thousands of prisoners. Even Jewish leaders at the time struggled with the issue, and many concluded that loss of innocent lives under such circumstances was justifiable. Upon viewing an aerial shot of Auschwitz taken during the war by U.S. forces, he said B-U-S-H called the decision not to bomb it complex. He then called over Rice to discuss President Franklin D. Roosevelt's decision, clearly pondering the options before rendering an opinion of his own. They said, why didn't Roosevelt bomb it? He said Rice and the President discussed the matter further, and then the President delivered his verdict. We should have bombed it. That's what he said. Briefing reporters later on Air Force One, Rice said the President was talking about the rail lines to the camp. Something like that. We were talking about the often discussed, could the United States have done more by bombing the train tracks, Rice said. And so we were just talking about the various explanations that have been given about why that might not have been done. Would, could, should. It was an exhibit about the train tracks. And so we were just talking about the various explanations because, you know, there are 3 or 4 or many more different explanations about why the United States chose not to try to bomb the train tracks, she said. Rice did not detail any of those reasons. Later, Friday night, asked about Rice's remarks to reporters, they said the President was not specific about what the Allies should have bombed. Something like that. This is a very confusing story. There's something more here. Between the lines, first acknowledgement by U.S. President ever. A leading Israeli scholar of the Holocaust said the President's reported comment, which appeared spontaneous, marked the first time a U.S. President had made this acknowledgement. It's possible that bombing at least the railway to the camps could have saved the lives of the Jews of Hungary. They were the very last ones who were sent to Auschwitz at a time when everybody knew what was going on. At the dedication of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington in 1993, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, Elie Wiesel, famously asked, why weren't the railways leading to the camp bombed by Allied bombers? As long as I live, I will not understand that, he said. Yes, looking back, in hindsight, I bet there's a whole lot of things a lot of people would wish they could have changed, perhaps. Or, once again, is there more to that story, or this story? Reading between the lines, of course. Anyway, at that same dedication, former President Bill Clinton said that the West has to live forever with this knowledge that far too little was done. Perhaps, right? Anyway, looking back in hindsight, and that rail lines to the camps within miles of military significant targets were left undisturbed. The question of a bombing was not so clear-cut, noting that it wasn't certain the United States at the time had the ability to carry out such an operation. Even if they did bomb the tracks, they could have put them in trucks and trucked them there, I suppose. Or, when night came, they could have rebuilt the tracks anyway. That's what they did in other places. Anyway, in response to a request that U.S. forces bomb Auschwitz and the rail lines, John J. McCloy, Roosevelt's Assistant Secretary of War, laid out the U.S. rationale for inaction. Such an operation could be executed only by the diversion of considerable air support essential to the success of our forces now engaged in decisive operations elsewhere, and would in any case be of such doubtful military efficiency that it would not be warrant use of our resources, he wrote in an August 14, 1944 letter. Complex decision required for bombing. Another Holocaust scholar, Michael Berenbaum, said the photo presentation at the museum and the President's reported comments there do not reflect the difficulties in bombing Auschwitz. It would have been a much more complex decision than what is presumed here, said Berenbaum, who teaches at the American Jewish University in Los Angeles. Berenbaum said the aerial photos that BUSH saw at the museum were not developed from the negatives until 1977, nor were they taken purposely to depict Auschwitz. U.S. intelligence forces took them during a bombing campaign on a German chemical plant nearby, which they carried out in August 1944. But he also said there's no question that the Allies had been interested, or had the Allies been interested, they could have bombed Auschwitz and perhaps, maybe, saved lives. By the time the idea was raised in summer of 1944, they could have bombed the camp and the railway tracks leading to it using air bases in Italy, or if they wanted to earlier, from Soviet territory, supposedly. It's hard to understand this one. Anyway, this is another sign of the last days, end times, and there are many of them.